Sometimes problems seem intractable. Whether those problems are global, like the climate or the wars in Ukraine or Israel and Gaza, or local as one's own grief or anxiety, health struggles, strained or broken relationships. Sometimes it feels like there's just no way out. When options narrow and helplessness and hopelessness eats away at my soul like termites working their way through the timbers of my faith, that phrase comes out of my mouth with a sigh. It is what it is. And though it may feel like our own generation's pessimism must surely be greater than it's ever been before, that's exactly what we find addressed by Isaiah and Mark. For Isaiah, it was an overwhelming defeat of the exile, of the Jewish people taken captive, communities torn apart, families broken up and scattered across the world as they knew it, in a calculated effort to wipe out the Jewish religion and cultural identity, to crush a people into a powder so fine that they would just be absorbed by the Babylonian culture. Within a generation or two, the Babylonian rulers reasoned there would be no Judaism. There'd be no Jewish identity, no Jewish religion. Everyone would be Babylonians. And it appeared to be working. And it would have, if not for those pesky prophets like Isaiah, who publicly cried out to God with such stark imagery. Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down, so the mountains would quake at your presence, and as when fire kindles brushwood and the fire causes water to boil, to make your name known to your adversaries, so the nations might tremble at your presence. To the Babylonians, this might sound like nonsense. But to those who grew up hearing their parents and grandparents tell the stories of their ancestors' encounters with God, well, this struck a chord. This was exactly what they'd heard about in the story of the Exodus. God parting waters and defeating enemies and appearing as fire and smoke from a mountain and cracking open the heavens with thunder. As unlikely as it sounded in the dominant culture, that culture that had not been grown up with these stories of God's hand turning the world upside down, the prayers that Isaiah cried out gave the scattered people hope. Hope that this intractable situation, this overwhelming defeat, it could be and would be undone. It gave them some pinch of leaven, some hope that somehow, sometime, though nobody knew the day or the hour, God would show up and show out. Now, when the world tells us that our problems are intractable, our theology outright contradicts the wisdom of the world. Our faith calls us, maybe requires us, to hold on to the possibility that the world is about to change, that people can change, that peace with justice is possible in our families, in communities, in our nation, and even on the world stage. What problem, what relationship seems unresolvable? The world says it is what it is. But the gospel says keep watching. Keep your eye out. Keep alert for the ways that God breaks into the world and turns it upside down. And that's where the message of Advent challenges us. I was thinking some pretty serious thoughts a couple of weeks ago as I was driving down Quince Orchard Boulevard on my way to the church, listening to the news in my car. I was praying, eyes open, for a return of the hostages and a respite from the violence in Gaza. And as unlikely as it seems after all this time, still believing in and praying for a two-state solution as a long-term viable alternative to present chaos. I was giving God some specific directions here. Now, if there's a way to have a democratic Jewish state of Israel with secure borders that lives by the values of Judaism, then surely that would mean preserving the human rights of all people, including Arab, Christians, and Muslims living in Israel on the West Bank and Gaza. How we get from here to there, well, I'm going to leave that one up to God. That's above my diplomatic imagination, far outside any influence I have in this world, but I pray for it without ceasing as I drive down Quince Orchard Boulevard. But I just turn off the news when I can't take it anymore, and I hit the iTunes button on my dash. And I don't know, it might be some weird AI algorithm that knew what I was listening to on the news, or it might be some weird and mysterious telepathic connection between me and my digital music collection. But the first song up is this driving anthem full of drums and electric guitar power chords. Steve Earle singing, "I woke up this morning and none of the news was good. Death machines were rumbling across the ground where Jesus stood. And the man on my TV told me that it had always been that way and there was nothing anyone could do or say." And I almost listened to him. Yeah, I almost lost my mind. And I regained my senses again, looked into my heart to find that I believe that one fine day all the children of Abraham will lay down their swords together in Jerusalem. Well, maybe I'm only dreaming and maybe I'm just a fool, but I don't remember learning how to hate in Sunday school. Now, I was running on empty, so when I got to Darnestown Road, I pulled into the gas station, music blaring, with that feeling of defiance and hope and uplift that a rock anthem at its best can give you. Defiance against the hopelessness and cynicism that dominates the airwaves these days. It can remind us not just what our theology tells us, but what faith feels like. It's a defiance that denies none of the suffering of this world, but it declares that there is nonetheless reason to hope in one fine day. Well, I pulled up to the pump, I turned off the car and the radio, and I opened the door, and the music from the gas station speakers assaulted me. Rocking around the Christmas tree at the Christmas party hop. I had to slam the car door before I got out to pump the gas. It's not just that I hate that song. I'm sorry if it's your favorite, even more sorry if you feel about it as I do and I just infected you with an earworm. It's not just that it was too soon, it was before Thanksgiving even. It's that the assault of the secular Christmas feels like, to me, the songs of Babylon trying to drown out our Christian journey of Advent. I know I sound like a curmudgeon, but I'm going to embrace that label if it helps me to stay on my Advent path. Now, as children, we couldn't wait for Christmas. To the extent that we were even aware of the season of Advent on the liturgical calendar, it seemed like the name of a time that was designated to decorate the house and get our Christmas lists done and get our Christmas shopping done. As we grow older, especially, I think, as we approach and then pass that time of life when we know that we have more yesterdays than we do tomorrows, the spiritual message of Advent rises in importance. More than a time to get ready for Christmas, it becomes a time to savor every single moment and day as a gift, to slow down while the world around us madly rushes, to watch, to listen, not only for the coming celebration of how God came into this world as an infant 2,000 years ago, but to watch for how God is breaking into the world now, today, and every day. I heard a theologian this week say that we have a season of Advent, just 4 weeks of hyper alertness to God's breaking into the world, rather than all year long, because if we did Advent all year long, we might become a danger to our neighbors. I suppose he's right that 4 weeks a year is about enough for such vigilance. Not so much that we put on a ragged robe and walk around with a sign that says, "The end is nigh," like some cartoon trope, but enough that the residue of watchfulness it leaves with us all year. is enough to keep us from drowning in hopelessness and cynicism. There's no way that we can fully escape the cacophony of the world's deafening attempt at denial of and distraction from the brokenness and sin of this world, with its vapid songs and onslaught of advertising and political posturing. Sometimes we just have to slam the car door shut and block out the noise. But the gospel offers us a way of navigating this world in which we live. Like a well-trained old ship captain whose electronics fail, we're still not lost. We have a North Star in Jesus Christ. We have a sky full of beauty and wonder, heavens that hold both the keys to navigation and that tell of the glory of God. With Isaiah, we can pray not in resignation, but with a steadfast hope in a time of peace and justice to come. Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down. Thanks be to God. Amen.